Hello, welcome to my class, Adnauseium Explained. Adnauseium, or Adna, is a wonderful itch.io game you can purchase right now for only $7. Wow. Today, I'll be going over introductory lore as of the release of Disc 1. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and comment them below. Now, let us begin. So, what even is Adnauseium? Adnauseium is a visual novel with point-and-click elements that places you in a Medicore world full of pretty girls. The game is visually influenced by many things like breakcore, dramacore, yami kawaii, gyaru fashion, and jirai kei. Adnauseium is a game with expansive lore and secrets, and a very dark world with lovely information at every corner, so please strap in as we begin our first steps into the lovely universe of Adnauseium. We are going to start off with geography. So in the universe of Adnauseium, the entire world is called the Clinic. Think of the Clinic as a huge, giant hospital. It goes up and down with multiple and many, many levels. Each one of these green squares is a room within the Clinic, and as you can see, there are multiple levels that go up and down. And when you look down at the sanatorium map from above, it looks flat, but it's actually 3D like the diagram presents. Around the edge of the Clinic, there is no outside, but instead there is the Black Wall. The Black Wall is a thick and unbreakable, indestructible wall of some glassy or almost obsidian type material. It's impossible to break, and no one knows what's on the other side. It's probably just more black wall. And like I said, there is no outside. This is not Earth, and that's very important. Many students get that wrong. Do not think of Adnauseium as being Earth, or the Clinic as being a hospital inside Earth. They are completely different universes. Adnauseium and the Clinic has no Earth, there is no outside, there is no sun or sky. Now, if we think of Clinic as the entire world, then Sanatoria is the area within the Clinic that follows sanatorian laws and houses most of the population. Think of like a really big country. Sanatoria is made up of borders, and that's the only thing that differentiates it from the rest of the Clinic. Now, these borders of Sanatoria are not neat. They are very messy. You could open a door to your left while you're in Sanatoria, and when you exit through that door, you may leave Sanatoria, and then the next door you enter will be back within Sanatoria. Think of it kind of like this. The Clinic is the entire world, while Sanatoria is a kingdom in this world. And beyond the Sanatoria is a big forest, which doesn't really have many people, maybe a couple settlements, but these people that live in this forest, that is beyond Sanatoria, do not follow laws of Sanatoria and do not get to benefit from the privileges of Sanatoria, which are security, safety, other people, and the laws. Sanatoria is 7 wards currently, and there are 2 wards that are not within Sanatoria. We know that Magnaceuticals does have businesses and people living there, usually to skirt laws and regulations that Sanatoria has. On the other hand, Vital Constructs is completely walled off and quarantined, and no one is allowed in or out, and no one really knows what's in there. And it seems like we're not going to know for a long time. Next up is the appearance of the Clinic. Everywhere within the Clinic appears like a hospital, and I mean a hospital that we are familiar with on Earth. Now, within the Clinic there are wards. Wards are essentially like biomes of a hospital. Now, these biomes or wards can be anything from hospital labs, or perhaps really rich and fancy hospitals, even hydroponic rooms and freezer rooms. Anything that you can find within a hospital or any medical themed building is most likely found somewhere within Sanatoria and the Clinic. Just a quick little note. Since the entire world is a hospital, basically all technology originates from medical tech, while other technology like weaponry and devices like, phones and monitors and computers lag behind. That's why in the game you can see that the phones and computers look kind of like Y2K era. It's because Sanatoria focuses on medical technology while everything else gets left behind. And Sanatoria is home to many advanced medical technologies that don't even exist in our world. Stuff like organoids and wetware, advanced prosthetics, and stuffing and locum pink. Stuffing is prosthetic innards and organs, while locum pink is an advanced blood replacement, which is pink in color. Now keep in mind that the women of Sanatoria are not robots or cyborgs, and that the world is not cyberpunk or even quote-unquote sci-fi. This is all medical advancements. A lot of this medical tech is actually organic, and it's grown from labs and stem cells. And the medical tech is also sometimes found within the world naturally because it's all a hospital. So you can enter a room and find some old medical tech and you can take it apart and improve on it. So the clinic is essentially like if our modern world focused on medical tech first instead of other tech. Our world has intense military technology, stuff like nuclear bombs and missiles and drones and machine guns and tanks. All this stuff is super high technology, while in Sanatoria they probably don't even have stuff like swords. They don't care about that stuff. But on the flip side, Sanatoria can fully reconstruct brains and organs and people, and has organoids, which are basically like little brains that you can put in your body. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but they have some really intense medical tech, and that is very important to think about when you think about the clinic. We currently do not know how the clinic is powered or ventilated, but we do know that broken parts of the clinic seem to grow back. Most of the clinic is natural, and you can think of it as naturally generated. But there are some areas, rooms, or buildings that are made by humans, and most of them lie within Grand Atrium. Now, to get more advanced, we can assume that certain concepts do not exist within the Adnauseium universe, because there is no outside. So for example, there is no sun, there is no space, there are no outdoor environments like mountains and hills and plains, and there's no such thing as oceans either. And furthermore, we do know that hospitals exist within the clinic, so kind of like a hospital within a hospital. And to the women of Sanatoria, the clinic doesn't look like a hospital, it just looks like the world. It looks natural to them. If you try to think of it like Earth, trees and grass, they don't look like a big garden to us, they just look like trees and grass. It looks natural to us. So basically, try to view the clinic as our world. Just replace all the trees with walls and doors and shelves and bookcases and beds. Replace all the grass with tile and linoleum floors, and replace the sky and clouds with, a big roof and lights, if that makes sense. Next up, let's move on to biology. Now, the biology of the clinic is quite different than the biology of Earth. Humans on Earth are not the same as humans on Sanatoria or in the clinic. So within the clinic, the concept of humans and the concept of women are one of the same. So basically, there's no such thing as men in the Adnauseium universe, not what we call men, and there's just no males. There's been no history of males in the story yet either. Furthermore, words like mankind have been replaced with womankind within the clinic. So it seems like that the concept of men does not even exist. However, we do know that women can be born with both kinds of genitalia. This is most likely viewed as a birth defect or condition within the clinic. Furthermore, animals and objects like plushies have been referred to as male or he or him within the clinic. We know that the women of Sanatoria do not know how children are made, except that they come from these places called nurseries. And civilians of Sanatoria work at nurseries, and they're called wet nurses. Now, these wet nurses, they follow an oath called the nursing vow. And if you follow the nursing vow, you are not allowed to reveal how children are made. It is a secret that you are not allowed to spill. And since to this day we still don't know how children are made, it's likely that the nursing vow is serious, that no one spilled the secret because they just can't physically, it's impossible. Some kind of curse or binding. Now moving on, the women of Sanatoria cannot die. They are immortal. When a human on Earth would die, a woman from Sanatoria would instead survive and suffer. Women can be brought back from most situations, even if their heart or brain is destroyed, as long as there is enough material left for surgical reconstruction, like taking stem cells or samples of someone's flesh or brain or heart and recreating the rest of their brain or heart, or perhaps even making advanced prosthetics. Like how one can have a prosthetic arm, one can have a prosthetic heart. Keep in mind that within Adnauseium, the medical technology is superbly advanced compared to Earth. So they do have things like brain prosthetics and heart prosthetics and other wonderful technologies. Animals, however, can die like they do on Earth. If they stop breathing, you cannot fix their lungs like you can with Sanatoria humans. When a woman is injured to the point of being unable to move, they are considered scotched. Scotched women must wait until help arrives. They can't move and they are stuck there alive, suffering. So basically, where someone would die, when a human on Earth would die, the women of Sanatoria are instead scotched. They still live. They can get shot in the heart, and they can get shot all over their body. They can get crushed with a boulder, and they'll still be alive. They'll feel all of that pain, and they'll suffer, and they might go in and out of consciousness. Now, at some point, they'll starve, and they'll start to maybe rot. Maybe rotting doesn't exist. I'm not entirely sure. But, I'm going to say that it probably doesn't exist. Now we're getting on to theory territory, because this stuff hasn't been covered yet in the game. But yeah, let's just move on from that. You can think a lot about that. Now, completely next topic of biology is psychosia. Now, all women within Sanatoria have a dormant mental illness called psychosia. Psychosia affects everyone differently, and the main factor that brings psychosia to the forefront of your brain is stress. Stress will increase your psychosia and bring psychosia symptoms to the surface. Now, a major symptom of psychosia is lucidation. Basically, what lucidation is when your hallucinations of reality begin to materialize as mutations into the real world. So if you hallucinate the world warping because you're dizzy, or you hallucinate spiders because you're freaking out and you're super stressed, those things start to materialize into the real world and mutate. So the walls will warp and spiders will become real in front of you and scurry around and whatever. If psychosia becomes even more intense, one might experience a psycho break. Now, a psycho break is basically the tipping point of your psychosia. You will lucidate so severely that most victims of psycho breaks end up scotching themselves and anyone around, because you will start hallucinating and mutating reality that your organs will shut down. They'll become a mess. They'll become melted. They'll become broken and wounded. your organs will fail, your body will fail, and you most likely will self-implode from your own mutations and hallucinations of reality. And this will also affect people around you, and it can even affect the environment around you, like, infrastructure. It is very dangerous, and most people do not survive. They end up scotched, and they will need severe reconstruction surgery. Now, I need to add on that for people who cannot afford reconstruction surgery, they will be binned. Now, within sanatoria and the clinic, there are many bins. They're big chutes that go somewhere. No one knows where they go, and you can't find out where they go no matter how hard you follow. They just go somewhere. And people use these bins and throw in people who cannot afford to be recovered from being scotched. It's basically kind of like a mercy killing, because people believe that the bins will go to a better place. But of course we do not know that, because we don't know where the bins go. So, back to a psycho break. We were talking about these mutations of reality. Now, these mutations of reality and the body are called saltations. And these saltations are very harmful and scotchly. They can end up killing you, like I said, with your own organs becoming mutilated by your hallucinations. But there are also harmless saltations. Now, these harmless saltations form very slowly over general and minimal stress. Just the general stress of living. Over a couple years, you may get some saltations on your body that are harmless. Now, we see this in the game, for example, with Yuffie. She has dog ears that seem to have mutated from her hair. Now, back to psycho breaks and psychosia. Very rarely, some people can actually handle this mental strain of psychosia, the extreme mental strain of advanced psychosia. And these people can even control their elucidations and still be functional without scotching themselves. And people who are like this and purposely delve further into the psychosia to control their elucidations, these people are called liabilities. And liabilities often do not get support from doctors. They do not get the privilege of reconstruction surgery. They'll be turned away. Now, these people are highly unstable. Their emotional state and personality is completely unstable, and they are very dangerous because they're basically these people basically are constantly on fire. They are elucidating, they are a complete mess. They could psycho break at any moment. They are unstable and they are dangerous. It's like someone who is on fire and burning, and they're spreading the fire and they're hurting other people by setting them on fire. Some liabilities are even more rare and suffer no harm from diving deep into psychosia, and they can avoid, needing to get treatment. These people are called abnormal liabilities, and they suffer intense emotional deficits. Think of abnormal liabilities as people who can control the fire and kind of use it as a cool power. Because liabilities also have something called lucid gifts. This is more of an advanced topic, but you can kind of think of lucid gifts as basically like an anime superpower based on what their elucidations are. Because elucidations typically take on the appearance and ability of trauma. Like I said with the spiders, if you have spider trauma or intense spider hallucinations, you may gain a lucid gift relating to spiders or webs or legs, something like that. And I should add on that the majority of sanatoria and the clinic regard liabilities as intense dangers to society. It's very common for my students to emphasize with liabilities, and while their situation is tragic, they are also a severe danger to society. So if you ever find a liability, please stay safe and run far away. Next up is the Sterly Force. Now, I'm talking about Sterly Tower, which is in the middle of sanatoria and the clinic. Within the grand atrium, there is a giant tower that is impossibly high and impossibly large. This tower is where the Sterly force operates. And what is the Sterly force? Well, you're about to find out. So, Sterly is where Providence most likely resides, the retainer resides, psyspecs, and crisis nurses all reside here, and I'll explain to you what those terms mean right now. So, psyspecs are psychiatric specialists. They work for Sterly Tower, and they deal with liabilities. So how they deal with liabilities is by auditing the liabilities. They try and talk with the liability, understand their emotional state, understand their personality, perhaps their deficits in personality. You know, some liabilities can be overly panicky, some can be overly emotionalist, you know? So psyspecs will audit these people, figure out how to best talk to them, how to best calm them down, how to best figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are, maybe figure out what kind of medicine they need or treatment in order to de-escalate the situation and hope, that the situation doesn't get worse. And if it does get worse, then the psyspecs will eliminate the liability. And eliminate means that they will, scotch the liability, because Sterly Tower and psyspecs get the special privilege of pill guns, which are the only kind of real weaponry in all of the clinic. I won't go too far into pill guns in this lesson, but I know students love pill guns, so I'll tell a little bit. Pill guns allow you to, of course, hurt and maim people, but they also allow you to administer medicine directly into people's skin by loading certain pills and shooting it at people, so they can both help and hurt people. It is a very essential tool for all psyspecs and crisis nurses. And what is a crisis nurse? Well, I will tell you. A crisis nurse is basically the same thing as a psyspec, except you take away all the brainy parts, all the smart parts of being a psyspec. Now, psyspecs do have doctorate degrees. They are doctors. They are basically doctors that are allowed to kill. But crisis nurses are not doctors. All they are allowed to do is eliminate and clean up. So they are basically the brawn, while the psyspecs are the brain, but also the brawn. Now, all psyspecs must pass the sacred test, which this test also outlines their job requirements very well. So we're going to really quickly go over the sacred test. This is not a test you will have to take, so don't worry. So sacred actually stands for something. The S stands for social engineering, which is a part of the psyspec job. Social engineering is basically the ability to quote-unquote talk down a liability and or comfort victims. It's how good you are socially and your social engineering and how you can de-escalate and communicate to people. Next up is auditing. Auditing is a very important job for psyspecs. It's diagnosing liabilities and assessing their properties, assessing their lucid gift, if they're violent, unstable, what the best way to talk to them is. It is basically auditing them. Next up is cleanup. Cleanup is bringing scotched people to hospitals or binning them if they can't afford reconstruction. This might seem really simple, but the process of binning someone is quite traumatic, and you need to make a lot of decisions. Next up is resourcing, which is your ability to locate doctors, pharmacists, and medication in a timely fashion, because you need very specific medications during a very high stress time, and you need to find these medications for your pill gun or for the liability. So that is what resourcing is. Elimination is your ability to eliminate threats and liabilities. This is self-explanatory. It's how good you are with your pill gun, how good you are at combat, and successfully eliminating threats. Lastly is damage control, which is your ability to keep the environment safe, clean, and undamaged. This is important because, while your weapons could be dangerous, you could be dangerous as well, And liabilities elucidate. They can create a huge amount of damage, so it's your damage control is how you can mitigate the damage to everyone and the environment. So that is all of the jobs that Psy-Specs have to do, and that's why they have to take this test when they want to become a Psy-Spec. Now, if a Psy-Spec shows immense talent and scores over a 10 in any category, they can become a TIPS, and a TIPS is a tenured independent psychiatric specialist. Now, a TIPS has free reign over a ward of their choosing and extra authority. They are essentially like a commander of Psy-Specs. They're basically a leveled up Psy-Spec is the best way to think about it. And of these TIPS, one of the TIPS is selected to become the retainer. Now, the retainer is the big boss. They're the one who speaks directly to Providence. And the retainer trickles down the information that Providence gives to Sterly and all of Sanatoria. So retainer basically controls the Sterly Tower and controls laws of Sanatoria. They are very important, and it is a very stressful job. And within Adnauseium, at least at the start of the game and the current story right now, Chica is the retainer. And that leaves the biggest boss of all is Providence. No one really knows what Providence is because of security reasons. It's a kept secret. Providence could be a council of people, could be a single person, or maybe it's not even a person. Maybe it's a god or a machine or an animal or some weird creature. But what we do know is Providence has immense authority and handles many things in Sanatoria. Now, Providence isn't just a magical, hypothetical thing. There's a lot of proof of Providence. Providence can read anything within a terminal. It can read USBs. It can access your credit. It can access a lot of things connected to terminals and the internet. I'm blanking a little, but I know there's other things Providence can do. It kind of just is this weird thing that knows everything. It kind of feels like Providence can surveillance everything. So keep that in mind, that if you ever feel alone, Providence is always watching. And if you look at the time, the bell's about to ring. So, class, that was this first lesson of Adnauseium Explained, the introductory lore. You should now have a better and general understanding of all of Adnauseum's lore. Stay tuned for more classes and lessons where I go into more advanced topics. If you have any questions, make sure you raise your hand and comment below. And yeah, I think that's everything. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and make sure to do the homework and get the questions on the back. Goodbye, and yeah, goodbye.